Artificial intelligence, or AI, is the ability of a computer to understand what you're asking and then infer the best possible answer from all the available evidence. AI is also defined as a system capable of perceiving its environment and then reasoning, acting, learning, and cooperating to achieve an objective.
Must escape.
You may think of AI as Siri or Google Now on your iPhone, Jarvis from Iron Man, or IBM's Watson. Progress of late is furious. An AI R&D arms race is underway among the world's top technology giants. AIs like Siri and Amazon Echo can listen and understand your commands. Other AIs can look at a scene and describe in detail exactly what they're seeing. Yet other systems can read, understand, and even write stories.
Once upon a time, in a virtual galaxy far, far away.
Researchers often distinguish between narrow AI, designed to specifically do tasks like, for example, winning a chess game, and general AI, which describes systems which are able to do reasoning, abstraction, and generalizations way beyond their programming. Soon, AI will become the most important human collaboration tool ever created, amplifying our abilities and providing a simple user interface to all exponential technologies, ultimately helping us speed towards a world of abundance.
In this lesson, I want to speak with you about the definitions of AI, machine, and deep learning. So AI, artificial intelligence, is called AI because it's a machine or a program which is programmed to perform certain tasks which are usually done by humans and therefore require some form of intelligence. Usually AI needs huge data sets where it can make sense of and so-called reasoning. I would like to explain you this concept in 3 simple steps. First, you speak about general learning. So AI models consist of huge data sets where you feed into the program and the algorithm, and then in a second step tell it what to do with the data, make a reasoning out of it. So is it text, is it financial data, is it cat videos, is it pictures of people walking on the street or whatever. So it should make a reasoning for this. And then in the third step, you program a certain problem solving. So the easiest example is that it should compare cat and dog pictures and then give you the correct answer. If it sees a cat, say cat, or is it a dog? And this is like a very easy example, but this is just to illustrate the concept of AI. When you say it's generally learning in the first step, you give it a reasoning, what to learn, and in the third step, solve the problem, like here, identify cats. Yeah, we can distinguish between narrow AI and general AI. Narrow AI are applications which are specifically designed to do a certain task like Alexa, you know, the home assistant. This is specifically designed to react to your speech when you tell it to play certain music. General AI, on the other hand, is a more or way more developed AI, which is learning for itself, which is developing human-like capabilities and even showing emotions and so on. But so far we only know this from the movies, and the opinions from experts diverge pretty widely if it will be ever available at general AI. And some people think it's going to be another 50 years until we have general AI capabilities. Yeah, what I would like to introduce you here as well are the subsets of AI. Like the first subset is machine learning, which is also called supervised learning. And there you feed the model with a lot of data, but also supervise it and train it and tell the AI algorithm what to do. Examples to name here is NLP, natural language processing, where you feed the model with millions and billions of data points like news articles or different text forms like books, and then the desired outcome is that the AI can write books or human accurate books or articles by its own. And there's a very famous example nowadays with GPT-3 from Microsoft, where you really can't distinguish if an article was written by a human or the AI, which is quite fascinating. A second example to name here is speech recognition. What I just said with Alexa, that it's recognizing your voice and playing music, or another application for security reasons, when you want to enter a building or let's say a data center, sometimes on the entrance you have to speak into a microphone, and you can only enter if your speech is recognized. This is also based on AI. Then there's another subset within machine learning, which is called deep learning. And deep learn basically is recognizing patterns within huge data sets and is also reinforcing itself. It's unsupervised, and based on the constant inflow of new data, it's learning for itself and therefore constantly improving in itself. I can give you two examples here as well. First one is fraud detection. Think about a bank which is monitoring hundreds and thousands of transactions daily, financial transactions. And then the AI can recognize certain patterns from which accounts the transactions go. But then when there's like a suspicious transaction, let's say it's a different currency or it's a very large amount, which is usually not the case between these two financial market participants, the AI can either block the transaction or notify the bank there's something fishy here and they should have a look at this. So this is based on deep learning algorithms. And the second example, the classic example, autonomous cars. So if you look at Google or Tesla or all of these other leaders in the autonomous cars area, they are collecting millions and millions of driving miles to improve their AI and their deep learning models, because the car needs to work under every kind of circumstance. So if it's sunny, if it's snowing, if it's in a desert, if it's somewhere in Antarctica, whatever, if there's like a child on the street, a car or a dog, the AI needs to process this information and then decide for itself if it should stop or accelerate and how to behave. So this is in a nutshell what to understand of AI and its subsets, machine learning and deep learning. And in the next lesson, we're going to speak about the socioeconomic implications of artificial intelligence. What are the socioeconomic implications of artificial intelligence? So the amount of data around the world is exploding, and by applying AI algorithms, we can make sense of all of this data in a more efficient way than ever before. Here listed 4 points to illustrate you that AI is already a crucial part of our life and is going to become even more important in the future. So 90% of all the data in the world has been generated in the last 2 years, and this pace of new data generation is expected to accelerate even further. So currently there are around 4.5 billion people connected, and this figure is going to increase to 7 billion by 2030. And think about all of these people, they are connected with each other, they're communicating with each other, sending pictures, texts, shopping online. And this is all information they generate and all data you can analyze. And the companies which have the capabilities to make sense of this data by applying the AI models, they will become very powerful, but also very valuable. Thinking about smart speakers, they answered 100 billion voice commands in 2020, which is 75% more than in 2019. And this figure is also expected to stay that high. So also the owners of these smart speakers, they become even more powerful than they are already today, because here they can work with information in the form of audio and therefore target specific products and services towards their customers. Thinking about mobility, Waymo from Google, their autonomous vehicles collected more than 20 million real-world driving miles across 25 cities. And as I mentioned earlier on, the winners in the automotive industry in the future won't be the ones which have the strongest cars or the most beautiful design, but rather the ones who have the best AI capabilities. So especially in urban areas, car ownership is most likely to disappear, since young people, they don't want possessed things or have a fancy car, but rather have mobility on demand. So you can order your car like you do a Uber today, but in the future it's going to be autonomous. So you substitute the driver by applying AI. And also the companies which are in the lead here will also become even more powerful and also valuable in the future going forward. And many experts claim that in 15-20 years from now, probably there will be just around a handful of mobility companies or automotive companies who basically rule the global market of mobility. But this is yet to be seen, of course. Yeah, last but not least, conversational breakthroughs in natural language processing in 2020. GPT-3 from OpenAI could generate text with human-like accuracy. So you couldn't really distinguish was this article written by an AI or by a human. And this is also a major breakthrough, which has advantages and disadvantages, because of course you can generate more text, more articles faster. But if the AI is in the hand of the wrong people, you can also create fake news faster than ever before. So as with every technology, this comes with advantages and disadvantages. So this is just in a nutshell to give you an idea how powerful AI already is today, and that it will become even more powerful in the near future. In this lesson, I want to share with you a very interesting image called A Day in Data, which illustrates once again the sheer amount of data we produce on a daily basis. Starting here on top, you see that every day more than 500 million tweets are sent around the world. Emails, we're above 320 billion emails sent back and forth every day. Here, when we look at connected cars, either electric, autonomous, or just connected, which means with data processing and storage capabilities, they produce 4 terabytes. Here you have the table where we can see the breakdown of all the data. Most of you are familiar with bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, maybe even gigabytes, but everything above is very hard to comprehend, in my opinion. But you see how much data just an electric car, a single electric car, is producing. Here, interestingly, these 3 numbers are connected, since all of these applications are part of the Facebook corporation. Here you have the general Facebook website, which is producing 4 petabytes of data every day, 350 million photos, and over 100 million hours of video. Here, looking at WhatsApp, which is also part of Facebook. On WhatsApp, their users send around 65 billion messages daily. And on Instagram, also part of Facebook, 95 million photos and videos are shared. So just imagine the data processing and storage capabilities Facebook needs to process and store all of this information and data. Here, when we look at search, alone on Google, 3.5 billion searches are being performed every day. And on a global basis, like other search engines included, we are at 5 billion. So more than half of all the search requests are being processed on Google. And overall, we have 5 billion. So nearly 1 billion search requests, one search request per inhabitant on planet Earth. And if we look at variables like an iWatch in this example, this is also producing 28 petabytes. So also an enormous amount of data processed here. What I would like to emphasize is not just the sheer amount of data which we produce on a daily basis, but also that this data is being captured, processed, and stored by just a few very powerful tech corporations. Here, in this case, Twitter. Here you see these 3 numbers are all connected to Facebook. Here we have Google, and in this case, Apple. And this is also raising, morally or also regulatory questions. If it's really healthy and good to put all of this information and this data into the hands of private companies, which unfortunately have been subject to data breaches and also misuse of this data. And this is very interesting because there come other approaches into the game, like to decentralize some of these applications by applying blockchain technology. But this is part of module number 6, and you're gonna get a deep dive there in more detail. But just again here to give you a glimpse about the sheer number of data we are all producing on a daily basis. So what real world applications of artificial intelligence are we having already today? And what's expected to become possible in the future? Starting with speech recognition, we already covered this example with Amazon Alexa. that you have digital assistants in your living room, which you can collaborate with and just basically, ask about the weather or just let it play music. Another example where AI is already applied heavily today is social media. Facebook, Instagram, and all of these other applications, they can recognize faces, they can give you recommendations of certain products or services you might like, but just analyzing your data and your behavior on their platforms. AI is also applied in banking and with financial institutions where they track thousands and millions of financial transactions and pretty quickly can identify if certain transaction seems fishy or malicious and react pretty quickly to increase the security within their networks. What's going to be possible with AI tomorrow or in the near future? When you think about climate action, one very valuable approach we're going to see there is that we can come up with more detailed climate modeling systems. So really make predictions on the impact of climate change on coastal areas or predict drought and floods, and therefore also save human lives. AI is a very important technology in the defense industry, and you will have autonomous drones and also robo-soldiers fighting each other. Therefore at least avoiding human death. But on the other hand, making them even more precise and powerful when it comes to warfare. Autonomous vehicles, it's not a question if they come, it's just a question when they will arrive. And here, as we learned earlier on, deep learning plays a crucial role. And there are multiple organizations doing research and are active in this field as well. So to sum up, you see AI is already a big part of our daily life and is going to become even more so in the future going forward. And this is super interesting for you as an expo investor to pick interesting companies within the field and also financially benefit from this exciting development. And in the next lesson, we're going to speak about the AI market and how it's expected to grow in the future. Let's have a look at the investment opportunity of artificial intelligence. To keep it short, the investment opportunity is huge. And here on this slide, I'm going to explain you why. So looking at the total AI market capitalization, you see that already over the last 2 years, from 2020 to 2022, the market capitalization was more than doubling. And towards the end of the decade, it's expected that this high growth rate is going to continue. And experts claim we're going to see a compound annual growth rate of more than 40%. So a super exciting area for you to play in as an expo investor. There are two areas or countries who are leading within the field of AI. This is in North America, the US, and in Asia, China. And in these countries, the big tech corporations, so the biggest technology companies in these countries are by far the leaders by harvesting the benefits of AI. The most growth in the next years is expected in the field of deep learning. And this is due to the fact that we are going to see a more and more connected world and more devices which are connected and generating data. And so this is leading to more deep learning applications in the IoT space, but also for autonomous driving. In 2021, the highest revenues have been generated in advertising and media, and especially in social media, because the social media companies exactly know what their consumers or their users are interested in, and it's very valuable for their corporate customers to pay them advertisement money to specifically target their products and services to the users of Facebook, Instagram, and so on. While this sounds all very promising and attractive for you as an investor, there are also some obstacles and challenges I want to raise here. First of all, there's a lack of skilled workers in the AI field, and especially developers are missing. And the big tech companies, they really fight for good talent, and therefore this could be a reason that certain applications will grow slower than expected once you don't solve this issue with available talent here. Another obstacle is that it's kind of expensive to implement AI in daily business operations. And this will be, especially in the next 1 to 2 years, just a thing for big corporations. And it's yet to be seen if small and medium enterprises can afford to implement AI in their daily businesses, especially if you want to run AI models and you want to do AI trainings. They require a lot of computing power and processing power. And for many small businesses, this can be just simply too expensive to afford. And this also raises the question of rising inequality gap, since certain corporations or companies can afford to apply AI and others can't, which makes the one side more efficient and powerful than the other one. But in general, AI is a super interesting area to invest in. And in the next lesson, we're going to speak about value and growth stocks you can invest in. Yeah, let's have a look at value and growth stocks within the artificial intelligence market. Starting on top with Google. Yeah, Google is managing the world's information and therefore obviously applying a lot of AI algorithms. If you just think about the variety of applications they are having, they're active in search, maps, translate, they have cloud services, speech to text, and also they're also active in the field of autonomous driving. So if you're really considering to invest in artificial intelligence, Google is a company you just can't ignore. Tencent is kind of the Chinese counterpart to Google, very active in the field of content creation, content management, but also communication and gaming. And they collect an incredible amount of data as well, if you consider the 1.4 billion Chinese people, which are all in some part, or the majority of them is in some part related to services from Tencent. But they are not active just in the field of B2C, but also B2B, and have a lot of clients in the fields of medicine and agriculture, and want to apply their AI capabilities there to improve the processes of these businesses. Looking at growth stocks, Palantir, which is an American company, went public in 2020. Since then, saw kind of a big boom and bust cycle. Quite interesting company. They are popular for two products. One of them is called Palantir Gotham, which is kind of a counter-terrorism software, where they work together with governmental players and agencies to detect potential threats to a country or government early on. And Gotham is also used for fraud detection. The second product is called Foundry, and is mainly used in the banking and finance industries by clients like Goldman Sachs. The second company I listed here in the growth section is Dynatrace, a company originally founded in Austria, now based in Massachusetts, and they are offering software health monitoring solutions, which enable their customers to detect faults in their software performance early on, and make it possible for them to optimize their proprietary software, but also apply it to microservices and so on. So yeah, these are four quite interesting companies. And to sum up, if you're more risk aware and you are looking for like constant linear growth, I think Google and Tencent are great companies to look at. And if you are willing to take a bit more risk, but also are hungry for higher returns, Palantir and Dynatrace are super interesting companies to consider if you want to invest in artificial intelligence.
What is gene editing, or genome editing as it is also known, and how does it work? Let's start by talking about genes. These are sections of the long DNA molecules coiled up inside each cell of every living thing, from microorganisms and insects to plants and animals, including humans. Think of DNA as the instruction manual for an organism. In people, genes can influence characteristics such as your height and the color of your eyes. DNA is inherited from our parents. We have a combination of two sets of genes, one from each parent, brought together to produce a new set of instructions and reshuffled in each generation. But sometimes these instructions carry errors, and these can create problems. Faulty genes can cause serious illnesses. Humanity has a long history of figuring out ways to modify genes. We have been crossbreeding plants to make them better to eat for thousands of years. But with gene editing, we've made a great leap forward. This increasingly accurate new technology is faster to use, relatively simple, and cheap compared with previous methods, and promises huge benefits. In a nutshell, it works by identifying, then cutting pieces of DNA. One way of doing this uses a component known as CRISPR to pinpoint the precise DNA sequence within the gene to be altered. Then an enzyme called Cas9 snips through the DNA, changing it or allowing it to be replaced by another stretch of DNA that is introduced at the same time. This can either replace a faulty gene with a healthy one or change a gene to make it behave differently. The methods act like a find and replace for the genetic instruction manual. By making these microscopic changes to DNA, gene editing has the potential to make big changes to our lives. Gene editing is already transforming genetic research. But at this early stage of such a powerful technology, it's crucial that we weigh the potential benefits against the possible negatives. First, let's look at the positives. Gene editing could make radical improvements to human health. For example, in 2015, doctors used genome editing techniques to cure a baby girl's leukemia. In the future, we may be able to fix the gene mutations that predispose some people to cancer, or enable new therapies for HIV, or edit the genes that cause hereditary diseases. In the plant world, it could make crops more nutritious, disease-resistant, and able to grow in difficult conditions. By editing animals' genes, we could help them resist diseases. Scientists are currently working to edit the genes of mosquitoes to prevent them from carrying malaria. So genome editing has enormous positive potential. But what about possible downsides? Genes could be edited in early human embryos to alter characteristics such as eye colour that have no bearing on health. This raises the possibility of designer babies. And changing an embryo's DNA would not only affect the child, but their descendants too. These same techniques could also be used to create designer pets, or develop more virulent microbial diseases. So, alongside the many benefits of genome editing, there are also some ethical and societal concerns to consider. The technology is already in our hands. Now's the time to debate how we use it, regulate it, avoid negative uses, and unlock its potential to provide life-changing solutions to some of the world's biggest challenges.
What is gene editing and how does it work? As we saw in the previous video, it's a very disruptive technology, and on this slide I wanted to list the main takeaways from the video and the most important things for you to learn and understand about this technology. In general, gene editing is based on the discovery and research of the CRISPR sequences in the immune system of various bacteria. The two scientists, Emmanuel Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna, published a paper around this in 2012 and got the Nobel Prize of Chemistry in 2020 for their work in the field. These two scientists basically discovered the CRISPR, or invented the CRISPR-Cas9 technology, which is often called the gene scissor, like you can see on the picture on the left side. So with this technology, you can do surgery and edit genes to either change, delete, or add DNA to any organism. So this technology can be applied to humans, to animals, and to plants, as we will learn later on in this module. With gene editing, this technology is converging with AI, with artificial intelligence, because if you look at the human genome, these are huge data sets, and you need AI algorithms to find out in a fast way which sequences and which strings of the DNA you want to alter, because it would just take too long for a human to read every line and then decide which string to alter here. Another thing with gene editing is that it's pretty simple and cheap to use. So you have this like democratizing of biotech, and there are companies who are selling like products for hobbyists on the internet. So this is something which could be of concern, and we need to really see how the usage of this technology is evolving. And there is, in some cases, more regulation needed. One very important thing for you to take away as well is that scientists currently focus on semantic cell editing due to the uncertainties around germline editing. What's the difference between the two of them? Semantic cell editing means that you edit the DNA of an individual, but only the individual is affected by the consequences of editing his or her genes. While with germline editing, you also edit eggs and sperms of the individual, so he or she can pass it on or pass it down to successors, and the consequences of this are not fully understood yet. So in the scientific community, there is consensus around this, that for the time being, it's better to exclusively focus on semantic cell editing. Socioeconomic implications. Gene editing technologies are available today, and its applications could both foster and harm human progress. In this slide, I want to show you human applications of gene editing and also agricultural applications, so you can get a big picture what's the potential impact of this technology. Let's start with human applications. It can be used to slow down or even reverse aging. Many scientists are working in the field of slowing down and reversing aging, and there are some like Silicon Valley entrepreneurs who even think that aging is a disease which can be cured by applying technologies like this. Gene editing can be also used to cure mutations like sickle cell disease or muscular dystrophy and other mutations. Already people who lost vision or have diseases to a decreasing vision have been treated with gene editing to improve their vision, and some experts even claim that it can be used to enable the blind to see again. It also has the potential to potentially cure and prevent cancer and HIV. As you will see later on in this module, in an article I'm going to present to you, a Chinese scientist was already working in the field and used gene editing and CRISPR-Cas9 to prevent HIV. Let's continue with the agricultural applications. Gene editing can also be used to increase the yields of certain produce like crops, biofuels and fish, and can enable humanity to get more from less. It can also reduce the carbon footprint for raising cattle, because as we learned in the climate tech module, the agricultural sector and especially raising cattle has a huge carbon footprint, or in this case like a methane footprint. And we could apply gene editing in two ways, either to alter the DNA of cows so they produce less methane, or you take the stem cell of the cow and reproduce it in the lab in an artificial way and grow lab-based meat. Gene editing can also be used to create and produce more resilient crops, which are able to adapt faster to a changing climate. Either it gets hotter or wetter, With gene editing, you can enable farmers and other participants within the agricultural industry to adapt to our changing climate. And GMOs, like genetically modified organisms, are also necessary to feed the rising billions, because people in developing and emerging countries will increase their wealth within the next years and decades, and therefore the demand for meat and other high protein foods is also going to increasing, and we need to think about meat substitute and other GMOs to really being able to feed these people in a sustainable way. One thing which I would like to recommend here as well, there's like an interesting documentation on Netflix. It's called An Unnatural Selection, and it's a 4-episode series about the topic of gene editing. And this goes very deep into the applications I presented you here. So check it out, Netflix, An Unnatural Selection. In this short news article, I want to share with you a story which has been communicated in 2018 and marked like a huge breakthrough in gene editing. There are a Chinese scientist called He Xinghui says that he made gene-edited twins using the CRISPR technology. He was doing this in a quite unconventional way, publishing a video reporting about his work by the time where the twin girls have been already born. The 2 twin girls called Lulu and Nana are the world's first known gene-edited babies. And to give you some background here, there was a Chinese couple, the man HIV positive and the woman healthy, and they never thought they can get healthy children. But then they talked to He Xinghui and were thinking about doing this gene editing process to enable healthy children for them. So they did an in vitro fertilization where you take the eggs of the mother, put them in a culture medium in a lab environment, and you fertilize the egg with the sperms of the father. And when the fertilization is successful, you can wait to 2 to 6 days. And what the Chinese scientist was doing then was deleting a protein called CCR5, which is like a receptor for the HIV virus. And he was cutting this protein out of the DNA string of the fertilized egg. He took the egg, put it back in the womb of the woman, and she got pregnant. They monitored the pregnancy, and she delivered 2 completely healthy twin girls 9 months later. And this led to a lot of controversy and upheaval within the science world, because as we learned earlier on, germ-line editing is like a red flag at the moment. And He Xinghui was actually sentenced to 3 years of jail in China. And until today, this is the only known case where the germline was edited with this technology. In this short article, I want to give you another example how gene editing has already been successfully applied. In this case, a patient called Victoria Gray was cured from sickle cell disease by applying CRISPR-Cas9. Sickle cell disease is a disease where you don't have enough red blood cells which are carrying oxygen through your body, and these red blood cells are usually round, they are flexible, and they move easily through your blood vessels. But with sickle cell disease, they have the form of half moons or sickles, and they get stuck in the blood vessels, and patients are suffering problems breathing. This is an inherited disease, and by applying gene editing or CRISPR-Cas9, you can identify the gene mutation and edit or replace this mutation. And like in the case of Victoria Gray, fully cure this kind of diseases. So experts describe this as unbelievably exciting, and I think so too. And the applications of gene editing go way beyond this use case. And as we learned early on in this module, there's even the potential to cure cancer, HIV, and other diseases. So from an investor's point of view, if you think about the potential gene editing technology has, this is one of the most extraordinary opportunities I think we have for a long time. And this is why it's crucial to have an eye on this technology. And in the next lesson, we're going to dig deep on the overall investment opportunity within the gene editing market. Let's have a look at the investment opportunity within the gene editing market. As I said earlier on, for me, gene editing is one of the most disruptive technologies we've seen for a very, very long time, and therefore the investment opportunity is enormous. The overall market capitalization is still very, very small. If you look at the graph, in 2021, it was estimated at about $5 billion US. And it's projected to grow pretty fast with a compound average growth rate of 18.2% to 11.8 billion by 2026, so more than doubling in the next 5 years. But just from a medical or biological point of view, imagine how disruptive and how valuable it is going to be if certain companies, which I'm going to present to you in the next lesson, make it to cure cancer, to cure HIV, to cure other diseases, diabetes, and so on. And it's, in my opinion, mind-blowing what's possible from a medical point of view, but also from an investor's point of view. Before investing in gene editing companies, just some things to consider here. At the moment, North America is the largest market for genome editing, both the US and China, but the US even more with their research institutions, especially in the West Coast in California, and on the East Coast in the Boston, Massachusetts area. There are the majority of the gene editing companies located. Unfortunately, all over the world, we see increasing cases of inherited diseases and cancer. And this leads to accelerated activities within the genome editing space, which simply make it more necessary and more important to make progress in this field. And one very important thing as well, that the majority of the companies are still like in trials and are doing a lot of research, but there are very few mature companies who have multi-billion-dollar products out there. And this is very important for you to consider as an investor, that genome editing companies are still very dependent on governmental subsidies and funding from both the private and the public sector. And as I said, in the next lesson, let's have a look at some promising companies within this exciting field. Selection of value and growth stocks within the gene editing market. As you can see in the value stock selection, you see nothing except of me. And this is by purpose, because I think the market is still very young and there is no clear mature company you could call a value stock or a value investment. So instead I listed 4 companies in the growth stock area. And I briefly want to describe you in which areas they are active and how to think of them from an investor's point of view. Let's start with Intellia Therapeutics, American company, co-founded by one of the 2 Nobel Prize winners, Jennifer Doudna. They are focusing mainly on gene editing techniques and have a market capitalization of about $6 billion US. CRISPR Therapeutics is a company based in Switzerland, co-founded by the other Nobel Prize winner, Emmanuel Charpentier. They focus on the CRISPR-Cas9 technology and of the treatment of rare blood diseases. Pacific Bioscience, American company, which sits in the West Coast in California, and they are developing and manufacturing systems for gene editing and gene sequencing with a market cap of $2 billion. And Ginkgo Bioworks, which is a genetic engineering company, which is modifying bacteria for industrial systems or industrial applications. They call themselves the organism company, and they currently have a market capitalization of about 7 billion. And what I wanted to mention or to show you here is that all of these 4 companies, they have a market capitalization in the single billion-dollar area. But imagine one of these companies is making this breakthrough to cure cancer, HIV, diabetes, other chronic illnesses. What's the value of curing such a disease? I would say it's in the trillions. So the growth potential here in gene editing and one of these companies as well is tremendous. And I think as an exponentially minded investor, you definitely should also include some gene editing companies in your portfolio, and maybe even considering an ETF or an index fund for gene editing companies to have a more like risk-adjusted basis to invest in the industry instead of just betting on one single company, for example. And again, I think it's a super interesting space to play in. I hope you get a lot of value out of this module. I encourage you to take the quiz, which is following this lesson, so you can test your knowledge about gene editing. And if you have further questions about the industry or certain companies, feel free to reach out. And thanks for taking this module, and see you in the next one. What is a digital platform? A digital platform business model is focused on creating value by facilitating interactions between 2 or more independent groups. Platform businesses focus on certain niches and enabling the core transaction between the network participants. I can give you some examples here. If you think about Facebook, Facebook is a digital platform which is enabling the core transaction of sharing information in the form of text, pictures, videos between friends who know each other within the network. Or if you think about YouTube, YouTube is a platform which is enabling content creators who create and upload videos to certain content with consumers who are interested in consuming this kind of content. Another example is PayPal. PayPal is a payment platform which is enabling financial transaction between all the participants who are part of their network and their platform. The ecosystem coordination and governance is done by one central entity, which is the platform owner. So most of the platform businesses, they are very capital light and don't have a big physical inventory. If you think about Airbnb, they don't own any apartments or houses, or Uber, they don't own any taxis. But Airbnb is enabling the interaction between apartment owners and guests who are looking for accommodation. Uber is enabling the interaction between drivers and passengers who want to get from point A to point B. And in the platform economy, you have these winner-takes-all dynamics, which result in a monopoly-like market power and revenue generation for the winners. So from an investment point of view, or from an investor's point of view, these are the kind of companies you want to recognize early on, because the return potential in digital platform businesses is enormous, as we will see later on in this module. Entering the platform economy. On this slide, I want to show you two very impressive pictures to emphasize how the platform economy is gaining more and more speed and is taking over the global economy. On the left side, you see a graph which shows the largest companies by market cap from 2001 to 2016. In 2001, there are companies like General Electric, Microsoft, ExxonMobil, Citibank, and Walmart, which have been like the 5 biggest companies in the world. You see like industrial conglomerate, oil company, bank, retailer. But looking over time, you see that there's a shift from these heavy industrial capital intensive old-fashioned companies towards software-based platform companies. And in 2016, all of the top 5 most valuable or largest companies by market cap have been platform businesses. Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook. They are all within the platform business and have taken over these industrialized and capital intensive companies we saw like 20 years ago. On the right side, you see a graph with the timeline showing that the amount and also the speed of new platform businesses entering the market is also accelerating. While 20 or 30 years ago, there were just a few platform businesses popping up, you see, especially since the 2010s, you have very dominant players like Amazon, Salesforce, Facebook, and kind of new platforms like Etsy, Airbnb, Uber, Twitter. And these companies have been growing on a tremendous speed. And if you have been an early investor and recognized their potential, you could have made amazing returns. But the nice thing within the platform economy is that you have these winner-takes-all dynamics, and many of these platforms are still growing and getting more powerful from day to day. So it's not too late to invest in these companies, and also new market players are entering the platform business ecosystem frequently. So it's important for us to keep our eyes open and decide which kind of niche, which kind of core transaction is not filled yet, and what companies to invest in the platform economy. Platform types. In general, we can distinguish between 2 platform types, a maker platform and an exchange platform. While at an exchange platform, you have the platform facilitating the interaction between 2 or more parties. In a maker platform, you have one creator which has the ability to use the platform to spread his message and his content to millions and billions, or in theory, an infinite number of consumers. Let me give you some examples. If we look at an exchange platform like Airbnb, you have one apartment owner who is using Airbnb to rent out his apartment to a guest who's looking for a place to stay. The same is true for eBay. You have one product owner who wants to sell his product, who's using eBay to connect with a product buyer who's looking for exactly this kind of product. But when we look at maker platforms, let's take the example of YouTube. On YouTube, you have a creator who's very good in a certain niche or a category, and he creates content in this certain niche. And once done and uploading this video, in theory, millions or even billions of people could watch this content. So there's like in theory, infinite number of people who can consume it. And this is a very important distinction we have to make between exchange platforms and maker platforms. So you have these subcategories in these 2 kind of platform businesses. You have service marketplaces like Airbnb or Uber, product marketplaces like Etsy and eBay, payment providers like PayPal or Square, investment platforms, social media, social networking platforms like Twitter or Tinder, communication platforms like WhatsApp and Skype, and social gaming platforms like Minecraft. the Maker platform system is even more concentrated. If you look at YouTube, which is owned by Google, or the Android operating system, which is also owned by Google, or the iOS operating system, which is proprietary owned by Apple. So as an investor, you have to think about what kind of platforms are existing and how crowded are these subcategories. Is there already a clear winner of a certain category, or is there still a lot of competition going on, and can I still make a bet who is going to win the competition? So this is a super exciting investment opportunity, but you really have to see how mature certain platform types are and where to put your chips to profit in the long run as an expo investor. Winner takes all dynamics. So as I mentioned earlier on in this module, in the platform business ecosystem, you have this winner takes all dynamics. And to illustrate this, you can see on this slide the distribution of market shares within certain areas. On the top left, you see video consumption or content consumed via video in the US. Here, YouTube is making out about 80% of the overall market, followed by Netflix with 13%. Less than 10% of other players are competing within this market. If you look at the top middle, you have desktop operating system. So you have Windows by Microsoft and the Apple operating system. And Windows here is making out 84% of the overall desktop operating system market, followed by Apple with 11%. And there's only a small percentage number of other players who are providing desktop operating systems. When you look on the top right, you see e-commerce in China. Here, the two biggest players are the Alibaba Group with nearly 60% of market share and JD.com. And then you have a distribution of smaller players which make out about 18%. But if you combine Alibaba and JD.com, they again make out more than 80% of the overall market share in this specific area. Looking at the bottom left, you see search engine market share in the US. Here, Google is making out about 2/3 of the overall market, followed by Bing with 22%. Again, only 14% are distributed along smaller players, which no one really pays attention to or very little people actually use. The same is true on the bottom right when it comes to smartphone operating systems. Here, Android from Google is having 82% of the overall market share, followed by Apple iOS. Only one single percentage point is not related to Android or Apple's iOS system. So you see the category winners within the platform business ecosystem have enormous market power and tend to expand on their market power and therefore have great returns and also are highly profitable. So these winner takes all dynamics, they are evolving based on so-called network effects, and how network effects work and why they are important we're going to cover in the next lesson. Network effects. What are they and why are they important? In general, a network effect is an incremental benefit gained by an existing user for each new user that joins the network. Let me give you an example. Let's imagine the inventor of the telephone is just using the telephone by himself or herself. So the value of the telephone network is pretty low, rather zero. But imagine that the friend of the telephone inventor is joining. So you have two people who are able to connect with each other and communicate with each other. And then from two people, you get to 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million, and so on. So the bigger the network gets, the more valuable it gets. And this is a direct network effect. So the value of the service increases as the number of the users increases within the network. Today's platform businesses are mainly built on indirect network effects. What is an indirect network effect? It means that the value of a service is increasing for one user group when a new user of another user group is joining the network. Let's look at Uber, the ride-sharing app, as an example. So you have two user groups in the Uber network. You have drivers and you have passengers. So if a new passenger is joining the Uber network, the value of the service increases for the other user group, the riders and the drivers, because they have more opportunities to give people a ride and earn an income. It's also vice versa. If you have a lot of passengers already, but a new driver is joining the Uber network, the service and the value of the service increases for the passengers. And these are so-called indirect network effects. A very crucial concept within platform businesses are so-called positive feedback loops, which means you need to develop an app, make an upfront investment where you invest $500,000, $1 million or more. But once the app is launched, you have these positive feedback loops that more and more people are joining, and they are also telling other people to join the network, and it's growing like more automatically, and the acquisition costs of new customers are going towards zero. On the left side, you see the concept of the 5 C's, which are very crucial for platform businesses. Connection. A platform business needs to be able to connect the participants within the network. Communication. These participants need to be able to communicate via text or audio and so on. Collaboration. People want to collaborate within networks, building Facebook groups or having a common interest they want to work on together. Curation. You need some kind of meditator or mediator who looks at the content which is created within a platform or within a social media app, for example, and needs to delete inappropriate content to keep the quality of the network high. Because if the quality is decreasing, people will get angry and just leave and not join the network anymore. And last but not least, community. People want to have the sense of belonging, that they can contribute within the community, that they can really have an impact. For example, flag inappropriate content on Facebook, or get tokens when you have like blockchain projects and so on. So network effects are the most crucial concept if businesses want to become a successful platform. And if you look at the most successful platform businesses today, they really mastered all of these concepts. Let's have a look at real-world examples and success stories within the platform economy. Probably all of the companies you're seeing here, you're very aware of, and most probably have used them already. Let's start on the top with Uber. The world's largest taxi company owns no vehicles. So Uber is just facilitating the interaction between drivers and passengers without any physical inventory. Airbnb, the world's largest accommodation provider, owns no real estate. Their core transaction is to bring together real estate owners and guests who are looking for a place to stay. Meta, former Facebook, is the world's most popular media company but creates no content. Their core transaction is that they bring together people and friends who exchange videos and pictures and text, and even with their subsidiaries of WhatsApp and Instagram, they have other channels and other platforms which are also the most powerful in the world nowadays. So you see, these businesses are still growing at a very high rate, and all of them are already publicly listed. So you as an investor can also invest in them, participate in their success, or you think there are new disruptors coming up who will get into this business model of them as well, and maybe become the new success story within the platform economy. Digital platforms and the investment opportunity. opportunity. When you look at this graph from 2016 to 2021, you see 4 different indices. Here on the bottom, you see the performance of the DAX 40, like the German stock index. You see the Dow Jones Industrial Index. Here, the Nasdaq Composite, which contains of mainly tech companies, and the Platform Index. There is a investment fund called Wisdom Tree Growth Leaders Fund, and they exclusively created this fund to invest in platform businesses. So if you see over the timeline here, over the last 5 years, this platform index had outperformed not only the DAX 40, but also the Dow Jones Industrial Index and the Nasdaq Composite. So you see, the platform economy is very, very powerful, and investors made very, very good returns in recent years. And it's quite likely that this attractive return profile is continuing going forward. But what is driving these positive developments and how to think about it as an investor? Here I lined up like 3 theses or 3 thoughts which are pretty crucial for your investment decisions. First of all, that platform businesses gain market share at the expense of traditional linear businesses. So you have to think about where are old-fashioned linear businesses which could be disrupted by a digital platform-based approach. We see stronger growth in small and mid-cap companies out of the US, so mainly in Europe, in India and Latin America. This is also very interesting because the platform economy evolved out of the US, but now also startups and entrepreneurs outside of the US got hold of this and are creating new companies which go public. So the bigger return or risk to return profiles, I would say, are currently in Europe, India and Latin America. What's also very important for you as an investor to take notice of, that the mega market cap businesses are in risk of stricter regulation. No matter if they are called Facebook, Meta, Amazon, Google and so on, many regulators, especially in Europe, thinking about breaking them up in multiple units because they became monopoly like market participants. And this is always kind of a risk if you just invest in Microsoft or Amazon today, because regulatory decisions could have a negative impact on these mega market cap businesses in the future. Let's have a look at some value and growth stocks within the digital platform business. If we start with value stocks, one company to name here is Microsoft. Microsoft, despite being a quite old company, they're always reinventing themselves and they're still super innovative and still growing. They have an amazingly large market share when it comes to desktop operating systems, but also have other multiple interesting, fast-growing business units. If you look at their Azure cloud business as one example, or they're also big in gaming these days. Another value stock to have a look at is Amazon. Amazon is the e-commerce giant, is like a monopoly these days, but also Amazon has interesting other business units like their AWS, Amazon Web Service, cloud infrastructure business model, and also Amazon Prime, Amazon Music, Amazon Pay. So they have multiple businesses where they are pretty fast growing. What's also interesting to consider when you think about Amazon, they're making interesting investments in robotics, AI, self-driving, electric cars, drone delivery. So they want to be active along the whole value chain of their product and logistics. And if they manage to optimize these by, for example, autonomous delivery drones, their margins are increasing, and so is the profits and the business value itself. An interesting opportunity to think about when you want to invest in like value stocks, or in this case a value index fund, is the Wisdom Tree Growth Leaders Fund. This is an index fund which consists of multiple pure platform businesses. And the allocation within the fund is pretty heavily towards big businesses like Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Tencent, and so on. So I would put them in the category of value stocks as well. Looking at growth stocks, you have Pinterest, which currently has around 400 million users worldwide, but is strongly growing, especially outside of the US, in Europe, in Latin America, in Asia, and so on. And they have a pretty interesting business model, in my opinion, that they have these so-called promoted pins, where companies can just like integrate their advertising in the pictures you see on the walls when you scroll through Pinterest. And having only 400 million users worldwide, there's still quite a runway to reach 2, 3, 4 billion people compared to companies like Facebook. These companies, they already have like 2, 3 billion users today. So Pinterest still has quite an attractive growth potential, in my opinion. And last but not least, Mercado Libre. These can be seen as the eBay of Latin America, which enables a matchmaking between buyers and sellers in Latin countries. And the market over there is also kind of underserved. And so the growth potential of Mercado Libre probably is higher than the one of eBay or other US-based marketplaces. So these are quite interesting bets if you are willing to take more risk and you get a higher risk appetite. But these companies probably also offer higher returns than the value companies I showed you on the top. As always, this is only for educational purposes and should not be relied upon investment advice. And I wish you good luck trading and investing.